The 7 stages of spiritual awakening. Where are you on your journey? You've recognized the signs. You've started noticing changes within yourself. And maybe you've reached a point where you know you can't go back to seeing life exactly the way you once did. But here's something important to understand. Spiritual awakening doesn't usually happen in one single moment. It unfolds. It deepens. And often it happens in stages. There may be moments when everything suddenly makes sense, followed by moments when you feel completely uncertain about where you're going. So if you've been wondering, where am I in my spiritual awakening? Or, what am I supposed to do next? This video is for you. Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Aura Cosmic Harmony, a space for spiritual growth, inner peace, healing, and deeper connection. In our previous videos, we explored the signs of spiritual awakening and what can happen once that awakening begins. Today we're going deeper. We're exploring 7 stages of spiritual awakening and how the journey can gradually transform the way you see yourself, your relationships, and the world around you. Remember, these stages aren't strict rules. You may experience them differently. You might move forward, revisit an earlier stage, or experience several stages at the same time. Spiritual growth isn't always a straight line. So don't worry about trying to fit yourself perfectly into one stage. Instead, simply listen, reflect, and notice what resonates with you. Let's begin. Stage 1, the wake-up call. The first stage is the wake-up call. Something inside you begins to change. Sometimes it happens after a major life experience. Other times, nothing dramatic happens at all. You simply begin feeling that there must be something more. You start questioning things you once accepted without thinking. Why am I here? What actually makes me happy? What is my purpose? Why am I repeating the same patterns? What kind of life do I truly want? You may still be living the same life on the outside, but something has shifted inside. The things that once distracted you don't satisfy you in the same way anymore. Your attention begins moving away from the outside world and toward your inner world. And that curiosity becomes the doorway to awakening. Stage 2, questioning everything. The second stage can feel uncomfortable. Because once you begin asking deeper questions, you may start questioning almost everything. Your beliefs, your priorities, your habits, your friendships, your relationships, even the person you thought you were. You begin noticing how much of your life may have been influenced by expectations. What other people wanted, what society told you success should look like, what you thought you were supposed to become. And eventually you begin asking a much more powerful question. What do I actually believe? Not what you've been told to believe. Not what everyone around you believes, but what genuinely feels meaningful and true to you. This stage isn't about rejecting everything from your past. It's about becoming conscious enough to choose what you want to carry forward. Stage 3, turning inward. Then comes a quieter stage. You begin turning inward. You may find yourself wanting more time alone. Not necessarily because you're unhappy, but because silence begins feeling different. You may become interested in meditation, journaling, nature, mindfulness, prayer, self-reflection, or simply sitting quietly without needing constant stimulation. You begin observing your thoughts instead of automatically believing every thought that enters your mind. You start noticing your emotional patterns, your reactions, your triggers, and the habits you've carried for years. This is where something powerful begins happening. Instead of constantly asking the outside world, "Who should I be?" you begin asking yourself, "Who am I when everything else becomes quiet?" And little by little, you start hearing your own inner voice again. Stage 4. Healing and releasing. Stage 4 is where awakening can become deeply personal, because greater awareness often brings things to the surface that we've avoided. Old emotions, old disappointments, unhealthy patterns, fear, resentment, regret. You may suddenly recognize why certain situations trigger you, why you keep repeating certain relationship patterns, or why you've been holding on to something long after it stopped serving you. But awakening isn't about judging your past. It's about understanding it. You begin learning that healing doesn't mean pretending something never happened. And letting go doesn't mean saying that everything that happened was okay. Sometimes letting go simply means deciding, "I don't want this experience controlling my future anymore." You begin forgiving yourself for what you didn't know. You begin releasing expectations that were never truly yours. You become more aware of where your energy is going. And gradually, you make space for something new. Stage 5. Rebuilding your life. After releasing comes rebuilding. And this is where your awakening begins becoming visible in everyday life. Maybe you start setting healthier boundaries. Maybe you stop saying yes when your heart is saying no. Maybe you become more careful about the people you allow into your space. Maybe your daily habits begin changing. You may feel drawn toward healthier routines, more meaningful conversations, more time in nature, more creativity, more gratitude, and less unnecessary drama. You don't necessarily need to abandon your entire old life. Spiritual awakening isn't about escaping reality. It's about living your reality more consciously. Your choices begin reflecting the person you're becoming. And sometimes this means certain relationships change. Some people may understand your growth. Others may not. And that's okay. Not everyone has to understand your journey for your journey to be meaningful. Stage 6. Alignment and inner peace. Eventually, something begins settling within you. You stop needing everyone to agree with you. You stop needing to explain yourself constantly. You become less interested in proving who you are, and more interested in simply being who you are. You begin understanding the difference between reacting and responding. Instead of allowing every situation to control your emotions, you create a little space between what happens and how you choose to respond. That space is powerful, because that's where awareness lives. You may still experience difficult days. You may still get frustrated. You may still make mistakes. Spiritual awakening doesn't make you perfect. It makes you more aware. And with awareness comes choice. You begin choosing peace more often, choosing compassion more often, choosing boundaries when necessary, and choosing yourself without feeling that you need to apologize for growing. Stage 7. Integration. The final stage we're talking about today is integration. And strangely, this may be one of the least dramatic stages, because eventually spirituality stops being something you only think about and becomes something you live. You don't need to constantly search for another sign, another message, another answer. Instead, you begin bringing awareness into ordinary life. How you speak to people, how you treat yourself, how you respond when things don't go your way, how you handle conflict, how you show gratitude, how you treat someone who can do absolutely nothing for you. That is where spiritual growth becomes real. Your awakening isn't measured by how many spiritual concepts you know. It's reflected in the person you're becoming. More conscious, more compassionate, more grounded, more authentic, and more present. You begin realizing that awakening was never about escaping your human experience. It was about becoming fully present for it. Where are you right now? So now, ask yourself, where am I on this journey? Maybe you're experiencing your wake-up call. Maybe you're questioning everything. Maybe you're turning inward. Maybe you're healing. Maybe you're rebuilding. Or maybe you're beginning to experience a deeper sense of alignment. Wherever you are, don't rush yourself. You aren't competing with anyone. There is no prize for awakening faster. Growth happens differently for every person. And sometimes the lesson isn't about reaching the next stage. Sometimes the lesson is learning how to be completely present in the stage you're already in. Before you leave today, I want you to remember something. Spiritual awakening isn't about becoming someone completely different. It's about becoming more aware of who you already are and consciously deciding who you want to become. Your journey may have moments of clarity, moments of uncertainty, moments of healing, and moments of incredible peace. Allow all of them to teach you. Keep learning. Keep questioning. Keep growing. But most importantly, keep coming back to yourself. If this video resonated with you, tell me in the comments. Which stage of spiritual awakening do you feel you're experiencing right now? I'd love to hear where you are on your journey. And if you're enjoying this spiritual awakening series, subscribe to Aura Cosmic Harmony, because in our next video, we're going to explore another important part of awakening. Why relationships and friendships can begin changing when you spiritually awaken. Until next time, beautiful souls, protect your peace, trust your growth, listen to your inner wisdom, and remember, your awakening isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a more conscious one. Awaken, uplift, restore, align.